It's done. Okay, so welcome back, and this is this is the last slide till where we completed in our last training, and
Mhm.
these are some of the PowerShell commands which we have
I
already
tried
learned.
this one, select one, comma two. This is not working.
This is not working, so this is something which might have changed in the new
I think we need
PowerShell.
to give here the parameter.
Not necessarily. So let's see. Anyways, our task is to play around, right? Okay, so get service and it gets everything we need. And let's just select hyphen first one. Does that work? Okay. Yeah, so this will be select and then hyphen first. And if we do select hyphen one comma two, it is going to give us, okay, it does not.
Because
Select,
we are using first word, na?
yeah. So
But
this
even
used
the
to work
same.
earlier, yeah. But like I said, always Microsoft keeps on changing things within their own, so PowerShell also, including PowerShell. But this is a parameter which we can give in select object, and that's the same. What you can do is get help hyphen get help and then select object and then show result, and this gives right select object. So here you can use a first keyword, here you can use last keyword, so these things you can do,
First and
right?
last.
So
Okay.
first, last, and skip, so these things we can do.
Okay.
Similarly, if you see, this is my last service, right? So if
Mhm.
I just do select hyphen last and then I do one, so this is the service which I get,
Mhm.
right? If I do last two, I will be getting these two, both
Okay.
the Xbox related services, right?
Mhm.
So this is basically what we mean by select. I'll update this to include first and last, but this is basically what we do when we go for pipelining and all. Pipelining is something we will study in detail when we go further. And these are some of the PowerShell commands which I gave for you guys to play around with, right? So we will go next, and next is PowerShell execution policy. So this is basically a safety feature that controls the conditions under which PowerShell loads configuration files and run scripts. This feature helps to prevent the execution of malicious scripts. So, like we did in the last, I'll clear screen. Like we did in the like last session, that is, we checked a particular dollar profile, and there
Mhm.
was this particular profile where if we create a PowerShell file with this name, right? So whatever is written in that PowerShell file, that is executed as soon as you launch a new instance of PowerShell, right? So
Okay.
this is a script, right? So this script will require you to have the execution policy on your system in either of one of these categories, which will allow you to run scripts, right? So we'll not go through the definition of all of these, uh, but I will just quickly tell you what all of these things do, right? So all signed is scripts can run, but it requires that your all scripts and configuration files, it should be signed by a trusted publisher, right? So this is your all signed, and
Mhm.
this includes the scripts which you have written on your local machine as well. So this is basically all signed. Bypass is basically uh, you're bypassing the execution policy. So whatever is your execution policy, that will be bypassed, and your scripts will be allowed to run. Okay. Then default
Okay.
is
That means whatever restriction is there, it will bypass that, right?
yes, yes, but bypass will work only for whatever instance you are using. So bypass is a keyword which you have to provide in all of your, you cannot provide it within the script, but when you're calling PowerShell, you have to provide the bypass parameter. So that means if you run a script, you have to provide bypass parameter to that. If you run another script, you have to provide bypass to that as well. You have to, so if you run 10 different scripts, you have to provide bypass to all 10.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Then default is basically the default execution policy that is restricted for Windows and remote signed for Windows servers. And restricted is basically, okay, sorry, remote signed is, this is the default execution policy for Windows servers. And in this also scripts can run. It requires a digital signature from a trusted publisher. Again, the same thing like all signed. And then restricted is that you cannot run any PowerShell script. Then undefined is that there is no execution policy in the current scope. And unrestricted means you can run anything. There is no restriction, right?
And
So
undefined?
undefined is that is there is no execution policy in the current scope. Okay. So
Okay.
when your execution policy is undefined, that means you can set your execution policy in the current scope, that is the scope in which you are running. Like, let's say if I am the user, I can make the execution policy according to whatever I need, because there is no higher authority which is defining any particular execution policy, right? So whatever higher authority like GPO or an admin on the PC through, again you can say GPO or any other domain, so they have not defined any execution policy on your PC, right? So that is not defined by them. So for you it becomes like you can run, you can define it according to your choice, but you can define only for yourself, not for everyone. Okay. So whereas an admin can define things for everyone on the computer, so for you, you can define it only for you.
Okay.
Okay. So again, if you do not have admin access, you can set an execution policy that is effective only in a particular scope. And even if you are admin, you have to provide on what scope you are doing. If you provide any of these particular scopes, then it will be taking precedence based on the order of whatever is written. So first, user policy, process, current user location, right? So there are specific registry keys where it is written. Let me check it. Edit. And if I go here, it is an HTML, then software, then Microsoft, then PowerShell, and it's PowerShell 2, then it is 1, and then it is shell IDs, and then it is Microsoft.PowerShell. So execution policy is unrestricted, which we did last time, right? Because we needed to run a particular script. If I do get hyphen execution policy, it is going to give me unrestricted. If I do it like set hyphen execution policy restricted and denied because I am not logged in as admin, so it is an admin. I will close this. Okay. Let me change the font a little. It's Arial 4080. It is not font. So I will do set hyphen. I hope it is clearly visible to read.
Yes, yes.
Okay, set hyphen execution policy restricted. And I will say yes to all. So if I go back to my registry, let me, See, it becomes as restricted,
Okay.
right? I will say, and once it becomes restricted, then we cannot run any scripts. We can run commands, but we cannot run scripts. So let's say if I do write host welcome, we are able to see an output, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, let me just write the same command, write host welcome, and I am going to save it on desktop with the type Windows PowerShell. I just say test.ps1. Okay, so let's see what happens now. Let me navigate there. Okay, so I can see my test.ps1. If I try to run my test.ps1, I will get this particular thing, that is cannot be loaded because running scripts is disabled. Whereas we just now saw that, okay, this test.ps1, it does not contain anything other than the same command which we are trying to run. So when we run the same command here, even though our execution of scripts is restricted, we will still be able to run our commands in PowerShell command shell. And whereas if it is restricted, we'll not be able to run the scripts, right? So
Okay.
I will change it back to unrestricted because our main role is to run scripts. So once I do it to unrestricted, and let's check it here, it is unrestricted. If you go back to your registry,
ये रजिस्ट्री आप पिंग कर दो लोकेशन.
unrestricted. So this is your registry. This is your registry. Okay, so I will close this and go back. Looking clear? And so these are some of the scopes which are defined. So if you know if you apply a policy to the machine through a GPO, it becomes a machine policy which applies to all users who are going to log into the computer. Okay, so if you set a group policy for a user, then you have to define the users to which that group policy for the execution of scripts will be applicable to. If you define it to a process, it only affects the current PowerShell session, whatever it is. And basically your current user and local machine, it is same as what we just saw in registry. So I will open registry once more.
Process one, can you tell me again?
Yeah.
Process.
So we just saw that this, right? Computer, HKLM software, Microsoft PowerShell 1, shell IDs, and
Mm-hmm.
this, right? So similarly, there is one more location which is current user, and then software, and then Microsoft, and then PowerShell. Okay, so we do not have it. Microsoft and PowerShell. Okay, so at this point we do not have it, right? So what we will do is we'll try to create, and let's see. I'll just clear it. I will open a PowerShell window without admin. Okay, so this is my PowerShell window without admin. So if I say get hyphen execution policy hyphen scope current, so let's see, undefined, right? So we just saw here there is nothing. Okay, and I believe what did we set for admin? Sorry, what did it set for the computer? Let's see, it is unrestricted, right? So this is unrestricted is for the local machine. So I'm trying to get what is the execution policy for local machine. Okay, it is unrestricted as we just saw. So what I will
Mm-hmm.
do is I will okay, first let's run that unrestricted. So if I run my test.ps1, we are able to see welcome, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let us change our execution policy back to restricted. So I change it and then I try to see restricted. I try to see the execution policy, it says restricted. I try to run the PowerShell script again. It says cannot be loaded because running scripts is disabled. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's try to run the same script here in the current user, right? In the
Mm-hmm.
scope of current user. So I will go to first desktop and I will do a dir. I have my test here. So if I run test.ps1, it says the same thing, cannot be loaded because running scripts is disabled. So this time what I will do is I will say PowerShell hyphen scope current user and see if it opens. Okay. Okay, it did not allow me to open. Okay. So what I will do is I will again try to run this with the scope and it does not give me the scope option. So it is again probably something which has changed and because running scripts is disabled. So I will again come back to, so whatever this is which we are unable to do, I'm noting it down and I will come back with this information on what we can do. Run first scripts. This is also something which has changed since our last PowerShell video. Okay, so basically, if your administrator has, you know, if your administrator has set policies which restrict you to run scripts, so then you can run the scripts in the current user. Okay, when you run the
Mm-hmm.
script, when you run your scripts in the current user scope, then you are able to bypass whatever your admin has done. Okay, but at the same time you will not be able to make any changes using that script. You will be able to get everything, you will be able to set things which are only applicable to your current scripts, like creating folders in ctemp and all, right? You will not be able to make any specific changes to the system. So things like ctemp, everyone is able to do things, right? So these
Mm-hmm.
sort of things you will be able to do using the current scope. Okay, but how do we do that? I will just come back to you. I'll tell you tomorrow about that. And the process you wanted to ask, right? So process scope, it basically affects the current PowerShell session. That is, if I have opened it and there is an environment variable called as PS execution. Okay, execution policy reference environment scope. Yes. Okay. So this is uh, this is an environment variable which saves your uh, execution policy for a particular process. And once this is something which you have to do within your PowerShell window, you cannot do it within your scripts. Okay, so once you open your PowerShell window, then you assign a specific execution policy to a particular process, and whatever changes you make, you can make only for that particular process, provided that you have admin access. And as soon as you close your PowerShell console, that particular preference is lost for that particular process execution policy. Okay, so I will come back again tomorrow with a real example for this process execution policy. So, but again, at the same time, with the sort of knowledge you're looking for PowerShell, you will not be using process and you will not be using current user scope also. So you will always be using local machine. because your goal will be to always interact with what your local machine is doing, and you will have to make certain changes to the local machine only. That is,
Machine
suppose,
policy, user policy, and current user and local machine.
yeah.
All are different
So machine policy and user policy are policies which are,
for
assigned
entire machine, entire user, right?
entire machine and entire user. So these two policies, so this is, if you read this, you can set an execution policy that is effective only in a particular scope. And below are the various PowerShell execution policy scopes in the order of precedence. That is, if somebody has assigned a policy to a machine, let's say AD user has assigned a policy to a machine through GPO, that will take the highest precedence among everything. So if you set something on local machine, right, because we opened a PowerShell window as an admin, and we are able to make these changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what if I want someone not to be able to make the changes? Even if they are able to make changes, they should not be able to run any scripts. So what I can do is I can assign unrestricted execution policy in the machine policy scope. Okay, so if I assign it in the machine policy scope, that will be, and whichever machine I apply that GPO. So once the GPO is executed on that machine, so all the users who are logging in are already logged into that machine, irrespective of whatever they are able to do, even if they are administrator on that machine or not, they will not be able to bypass the machine policy which is set by a AD administrator or else someone who is able to apply GPOs. Similarly is for user, and the order of preference remains the same. That is, if something is assigned for a user and something is assigned for a machine, both are conflicting or else both are the same. So machine policy will always take precedence above the user policy. So these are the type of policies which will be applied. So current user and local machine. So if you do not have admin, right, still you will be able to run scripts because the current user execution policy will have higher preference than the local machine. Okay, so this is basically
करंट यूजर का तो समझ में आ गया मुझे, यूजर पॉलिसी मशीन पॉलिसी भी समझ में आ गया, ये लोकल मशीन का नहीं समझ में आ रहा है मतलब।
local machine is basically we just saw here.
जैसे लोकल मशीन और मशीन पॉलिसी दोनों मुझे लग रहा है सेम ही है।
No, no, it's not the same. So machine policy it is basically set by a group policy for all users, right?
हाँ
Local
हाँ।
machine is something which you also can set on your machine. Okay,
ओके ओके
so
ओके।
since this, I will just show you that this is a computer which is not part of any domain, right? I will go to properties and domain or work group. It is a machine which is in work group,
वेरी गुड।
right? So this machine is in work group, so there is no GPOs, there is
So
no
this
policy.
is a local machine.
Yeah, this is a local machine. So there is no policy which is being applied, and hence the machine policy which is applied through a GPO, which are for all users, that, and this one also user policy. These two are of no use, right? But I can still set my local machine policy through here, here, right? So if I set my local machine policy by going to HKLM software and then Microsoft and PowerShell and then Microsoft and shell like this, right? So I can change this to anything I want. But if at the same time this machine is part of a domain, right, and if someone has set this machine policy, right, this will always keep on overwriting whatever I set in local machine. So I set in local machine, I change this to, instead of restricted I say it unrestricted or whatever I wanted to set, right? So as soon as I change and as soon as the GPO reevaluates, it is again going to change it back to whatever administrator has set as part of machine policy, right? So you can say it is the same, but it is basically set by a different person, set by an administrator in a different environment. Okay,
ओके।
so again, we just check this how to change, to check the execution policy, that is through get execution policy. and how to change execution policy, that is through set execution policy. Okay, so let's go next and let's create our first PowerShell script. Okay, so
एक मिनट में आ रहा हूँ वॉशरूम से ना, एक मिनट.
okay.
Yeah, I'm back now.
Okay, so I will open a non-admin permission window and let me check. I have changed it to unrestricted. So
Mhm.
from here, uh, this is our first PowerShell script. Okay,
Mhm.
and okay, so up until now, we have not yet covered this, that is Windows pipeline, variable, arrays, and hash table. But before we go about doing this, I will just just create a basic scripting one single PowerShell script, and we will see how to run it. Okay,
Mhm.
and
Okay.
then we will come back to Windows pipeline. So, what do you prefer? Will you prefer this Notepad++, or do you prefer ISC?
PowerShell ISE is better.
Better, right? Okay.
Mhm.
Let me reopen this test.ph1 and edit. Let me close this. Okay, so I will delete everything and we will go back here and let us see our first PowerShell script. So first PowerShell script we anyways have executed write hyphen host hello welcome. Okay, yes, I save it. If I run the test.ps1, it gives me an output welcome, right?
Mhm.
Let me go back here and see. Okay, so this is what it is like. Dollar first name equals to argument 0, dollar last name equals to argument 1, right host hello first name last name. So what I do is, let me say first name last name hello first name last name hello. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do only this one for now. I will say dollar first name. Okay, before that, let me write it back. Welcome. Save and run. Okay, I have run it. Let's say how many times. I will change the view as well to this view. So I am
Mhm.
running it like continuously so many times, but I'm not getting any different output, right?
Yes.
Because there is nothing here which will allow me to give me a different output in the clear
Mhm.
screen. So what I do is I will go here and I say dollar first name equals to, and this dollar basically stands for anything. Basically the word, if you just press dollar, it becomes a variable. This also we will cover after pipelining. So after our first
This is a
script,
variable, right?
yeah, after our first script we will cover pipelines. After that we will start covering variables. Okay, variable,
Mhm.
arrays, and hash tables. So our
Mhm.
first name, let's say I say Amit, and my last name I say Rai. Okay, then I say right host. say dollar first name and I say dollar last name. I have saved my script. Let me try to run it. Okay, you see the output. It is giving me the output. I have, and as soon as this is changed, right? So I
Mhm.
say Ranjit. Okay, the output becomes Ranjit Rai.
Mhm.
Okay, I say Manjeet and I save and I run it. Output becomes this. But every
Mhm.
time, whatever I do, I have to come back to the script. I have to change something in the script to get a different output.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Okay.
what I do is I will do dollar args 0 and I will say dollar args and then 1.
ये स्क्वायर ब्रेकर जो है
Yeah,
इसमें 0 1 ये क्या इंडेक्सिंग है क्या?
yeah. So this is sort of an indexing. So what I'm doing is I'm telling this to take the first argument as first name, take the second argument as the last name. So this indexing starts from 0. So that is why
0.
args 0 is first argument, args 1 is second argument. So this time what I do is I will let me clear my screen. Okay. I run test.ps1 and I do not receive any output. Okay. Let me write here welcome so that you're able to see. We do receive an output. So in the first time, since welcome was not here, so we did not see anything. And the second one, we have put a welcome and then first name, last name, and we see welcome, but we do not see anything after that because we have not passed anything as an input to our script. So this time, what I will do is I will say test and then I will say Amit and then I will say Rai. Okay. So whatever my first argument that goes into first name that's get printed after welcome, whatever is my second argument that goes in last name that's get printed after the first name.
Mhm.
So if I again put A and B, right? So this becomes AB. Okay. So
मुझे इधर इस वाली स्लाइड में अगर लिखना हो व्हाइट वाले में तो
okay,
यहाँ पे कैसे हाँ लिखेंगे आर्गुमेंट कैसे देंगे
what do you want to write?
मेरा ही नाम जैसे लिख दो आप मंजीत निषाद
Okay, so
वेलकम मंजीत निषाद
test and
तो
then
मैं ये
ps1.
टेस्ट नहीं रन करना चाह रहा हूँ मैं यहाँ इधर से आके ये जो स्क्रिप्ट लिखी हुई है डॉलर फर्स्ट नेम यहाँ पे मैं देना चाह रहा हूँ कहाँ कहाँ पे डिफाइन करेंगे इसको
You can do just like this. So
आ,
if you are putting it in the script, that becomes a static thing, right? So your
हाँ
output of the script will always be the same. Okay. So see this. I'm
तो
running test.ps1 that gives welcome Manjeet Nishad, right?
हाँ हाँ
I'm running test.ps1 where I'm passing parameters A and B. Then also my output is Manjeet Nishad. It is not giving me A and B because there is nothing in the script which is accepting A and B. So first
हम्म,
name is accepted or not accepted, it does not matter. First name we are setting it as Manjeet within the script.
ओके
Okay. So I will clear screen again and we will go back to arguments. Right. So arguments 0 and dollar $args1 and I do test and then you wanted Manjeet and then you wanted Nishad. Okay. That gives your output. But
हम्म,
let's say this is something like I do like this. Okay. I do something like this. So it is going to print welcome Nishad and Nishad, right? Because
हम्म,
whatever you pass it on as the first one, it takes as the first name. Whatever you pass it on as the second one, it takes as the last name, right? So if you have 10 different things, you can just write things like this, okay? That becomes your argument 2. You have another line, it becomes argument 3. And ultimately, you will have to let the user, the user will always have to open the script and say, whatever you are passing like this, right? So whatever I'm sending, where it is supposed to go here. So I know that okay, AS is being going to first name. I know that AS1
अच्छा
is
एक
going
चीज
to
और
last name.
ये कह रहा था जैसे कि कहाँ पे हमको डबल कोट यूज करना है, कहाँ सिंगल कोट, कहाँ कॉमा, कहाँ सेमी
we will
कॉलन,
we will cover that, we will cover
ये
that.
आएगा ना टॉपिक में?
Aega. Yes.
ओके।
So what I was telling is, if I keep writing things like this, right? Last name one, last name two, last name three, and I keep writing argument zero, argument one, two, three. So ultimately, whosoever is running the script, they will have to open the script, okay? And then you will have to see that, okay, first name is accepting argument zero, and this is also something I can do. I can do like this. Okay, I can keep anything anywhere. PowerShell will not stop me. But if you see some very poorly written script, something like this, like they have written zero in the first place, one here. So people who are running the script, they will have to open the script and check that, okay, whatever I'm passing on this AS, right? This AS, where it is going? It is going to argument zero. That will
जी।
go to first name. This
हम्म।
AS1, it is going as argument one.
वन।
Where is argument one? Here. It is going to last name. So they will basically have to come to the script and keep guessing, okay, where is my input going and how will my input behave? So things like that, they will always have to keep guessing. So what we do is, we do something like get rid of all of this. Okay. So what we do is parent, and we write dollar first name, and we write dollar last name. Okay, so this is what we do. Okay, so now let's, again, we are not passing anything here anywhere. If I just run, I will clear screen. If I just come back and run, it is going to give me welcome. We are not passing any parameters, so first name last name becomes blank, and we just get an output welcome. I will do this. Okay.
Then parameter and argument both are
Are
almost same, right?
not
But
not
but
same, not the same.
the thing is okay.
Yeah, so argument is something you can pass to the script. Parameter is also something you can pass to the script. Argument is position dependent. Parameter
Mhm.
is not position dependent.
Okay, okay.
So, okay, so I'll run the script test hyphen ps1. What I will do is I will do hyphen. As soon as I put hyphen, it will give me what all parameters my test.ps1 is able to accept. Okay, I put
Okay,
first name.
whatever inside the parameter it will say. So, I mean, so here, right?
Yes, I will say first name, last name. I will say Amit. Okay, Amit.
Parent.
I will say
Okay.
Rai, and I press enter. It gives me welcome Amit Rai. Let's see
यहाँ
what
पे
if I
जो
do.
पैरामीटर है यहाँ पे आप मिडिल नेम भी डालो एक और कॉमा लगा के
If I
पैरामीटर के अंदर।
give middle name, so first
और
name
अब
dollar
यहाँ
middle name.
पे
Okay,
हम्म,
so
यहाँ पे
since
हाइफन हाइफन डालो जो छतीनो आ रहा है, ठीक है।
yes, so whatever your parameter your script is able to accept, it will give you. So let's say if I do not give first name, I do middle name, and I say Prakash. Okay. Now I decide that, okay, I want to give last name, and I say Rai. Okay, in the very beginning, whenever I'm trying to press enter, as soon as I try to press enter, and I just realize that, okay, I need first name is something which I missed, right, to write here.
हम्म,
So I can do my first name here, and I can put Amit, right? If you
हम्म,
remember, if you put the same thing, Prakash, Rai, and Amit, it will take Prakash as the first name, Rai as the middle name, and Amit as the last name if it were arguments, right?
हम्म,
So in parameters, it is position independent. It basically depends on where you have put your parameter, and after that what value you have given. So if I press enter, it is not going to give me the Prakash as the first name, because my first name here is this one, right? This is my first name Amit, and then this is my middle name Prakash, and then this is my last name is Rai. Okay, so
हम्म,
this is basically how our parameters work. And this was just an example of a very basic scripting and your first PowerShell script.
हम्म।
Okay, so this is all about that, on how do you start, on how do you go about writing your first PowerShell script. Does not has to be very fancy, you can just write anything you want. Okay, let's go back to comments. Sorry, not go back. Let's move on to comments. And here, let me write, come on, welcome home. And what do I do is I want to comment the first two lines, because let's say if I do not need the first two, I will have to delete, right? So if I delete and then okay, I just decide that okay, I want them back, then again I will have to start writing. So instead of doing that, what I can do is I can just comment them with a hashtag. Okay,
Mhm.
hashtag will allow you to comment line by line, and once you have commented and let's say I run it, so I will get the output whatever is uncommented in the script. Okay, so this is your single line comment, that is every line you put hashtag. Let us say I want to comment more than one line, so I'm feeling too lazy to just put it one by one. So what I can do is I can put star and hashtag, sorry, greater than hashtag, and then I can just close it like this. Okay, so basically whatever is between these, okay, everything becomes part of the comment. And if you just do not close it, so everything in itself is also commented, the entire script, until it finds a closing for this. It will keep on thinking that everything is a comment, and you will anyways not be able to run your script if you have not closed it, right? So I'll close this, and if I run my script again, I get the same output of whatever is not commented. Okay, so this is how you write comments in PowerShell, and these are your single line comments, which is with a hashtag you put commented code. Your multi-line comments, it starts with this and ends with this, an example of that. Okay,
Okay.
okay, so this is also something which we have already covered in the beginning of the class, that is PowerShell is basically everything in PowerShell is an object, and when we say object we mean .NET object. Like get date is something which will return you with a date. Okay, so whatever output you get, that is an object of .NET framework class. And objects are related to two things, basically a property and a method. And let me show you something like get service. So I get all the services. Let's say I put get member. Okay, so it tells me few things, that is methods, and few things which is property. So it gives me alias also, but alias is something which I can just use to short my script and all. But anything and everything which I will have to do, that I will do only with these two things, that is the method and the property.
Event? What is the event?
uh Event is something which I'm not sure. I will check.
Okay.
Let me check this. PowerShell events.
इसमें मैथड प्रॉपर्टी तो समझ में आ गया मुझे, और एक उसमें और दिख रहा है ना, एलियास क्या है वो?
Alias is something which we will alias
एलियास।
property. So if I put like get hyphen service, right? Uh, it gives you this. Okay. If
हम्म।
I put get hyphen alias and then get hyphen service, it cannot find a matching alias, so that does not exist. Okay. Get hyphen alias. Let's use everything, right? Okay. So it gives me for
ओके,
this.
शॉर्ट फॉर्म है इसका ना?
Yeah, short form. So those are the alias.
ओके।
Okay, so basically, like it all, they are related to two things. One is property, one is method. Method is something which will do something on that particular object. That is either start, stop, pause, continue. So those sort of things, which again defines an action. Property is your noun, or which something like a quality or an attribute. Okay, so these are the only two things which of which PowerShell objects are made up of. Okay, they are made up of your attributes and they can do certain actions based on whatever is your method which is defined. Okay, so this is everything in PowerShell is an object. So if I put uh, dollar a equals to a, okay, so we know that okay, we have defined it as a string, but that also is an object in PowerShell. Okay, it is just that we have defined it as a string.
Mhm.
Okay, and okay, before pipelining, let's say get date. So get date is something, this is just an example, that is what is an object in PowerShell, that is get date. If I show you something like this, I will clear screen. Okay, dollar a equals to 1, and then I say dollar b equals to a, and what else, dollar c equals to and after that we set equal to dollar a. When I say dollar a, I get the value of dollar a. I say dollar b, I get the value of dollar b, which is a. I say dollar c, I get this value. Right, let's say I say dollar a dot get type, it is going to give me that an integer is something which we have defined. If I do dollar b dot type, it is going to give us a string. Okay, if I do dollar c, if I do dollar c, it is again going to give us a string, right? Because it is only trying to detect what we have provided, whereas we know that this is a date, right?
अच्छा, कोई एक्शन परफॉर्म परफॉर्म करना, लाइक स्टॉप करना, रिस्टार्ट, तो वो मेथड हो गया, राइट?
Yes, that is a method.
अगर मुझे उसका स्टेटस देखना है तो स्टेटस जो हो गया वो उसकी प्रॉपर्टी हो गई।
Yes, so you can easily tell get hyphen, let's say process. You see all of this, right? And you say get member, and it tells you a lot of properties, it tells you a lot of methods. So property is basically your attribute or quality or noun, whatever you say, right? So if you say get process, and
ये स्क्रिप्ट प्रॉपर्टी क्या है? अब प्रॉपर्टी सेट।
I will also check this also.
ओके।
You mostly will not need it.
हम्म।
Script property, and here. So you mostly will be dealing only with property
प्रॉपर्टी एंड मेथड ना।
and the method. Everything else, something like this, you will not be dealing with.
हम्म।
Okay, let us go back to our example. Save
हम्म।
this. Right. So what we did is we did dollar a equals to 1, and then we did dollar b equals to a, dollar c equal to this, right? So
हम्म।
we here we are trying to define a date, right? We are
हम्म।
telling it that okay, this is a date, but we have put it in double quote, so it is thinking that it is a string. Okay, and
हम्म।
this we are giving it as an a, so it is thinking that this is again a string, right?
हम्म।
But will this consider this also as a string? So if I just put a, right, so it is not going to recognize this as a string. It's trying to think that okay, you are not providing a string, whereas in our minds we are thinking that it is a string. So for PowerShell, everything is an object. It thinks that okay, you are trying to provide an object to us, okay, and it does not recognize this object. Whereas when I try to give it this, it easily recognizes this, that okay, it is, we are giving it an object input, and it is trying to think whether this object input is something which I recognize or not. As soon as we give it something like this, it just goes and think okay, yeah, this is something of a string format. When we give an integer, it says that okay, this is something of an integer format, and those are objects which I recognize. This particular object it does not recognize. Whereas when you say get process, right, it gives you a particular output, a lot of output, right? So those
Mhm.
output contains what? Let's quickly see. Select first. Fine. This output get process. It contains a lot of things. It contains handles. It contains npm. It contains pm. It contains ws, cpu, idle, std. So if I do $a equals to 1 and if I say $a dot get type, right, it easily tells me integer, and I will put the same thing here and I will say $b equals to this. If I see the value of $b, it is this, and at the same time what I do is I will do this, right? So this is going to give me that, okay, the type of this particular $b variable, it is a process type, right? So it is able to store a lot of things. It is able to store handles, it is able to store npm, it is able to store pm, ws, cpu, id. So it is able to store a lot of things within this. So that is basically your object data type, and this is what it is, an object. Okay, you do not have to define a data type for $b. It automatically picks up the data type for $b. And
ये प्रोसेस भी डेटा टाइप है क्या?
sorry,
ये प्रोसेस जैसे यहाँ पे गेट टाइप में नेम प्रोसेस आ गया,
ha,
तो ये भी
yes,
एक वो क्या
this
डेटा टाइप
is
है?
this is not a data type. This is an recognizable object. The data type of this is object only. So data
हम्म,
type of this one, it is also object. The only thing is this data type is known as integer because integer is something known to the system, right? Similarly, process is something known to the system. So it becomes a data type of object with a value of integer. In this time, it becomes a data type of object with a value which it is storing as a process.
हम्म,
Okay, so process is not a data type. Similarly, if I put something like this, right? So its data type does not become service. Its data type is still object, and that object is storing a service. This service is a service controller class, and it is storing an output from a service class. The object
हम्म,
still remains the data type still remains as an object, and that is exactly what is meant by here. That is, nothing in PowerShell is a service or an integer or a string or what do you say, process or anything as such. It is always an object. That object is able to hold a particular value or a set of values. Those value or values can be anything. And let's get another example here. So let me put CLS. I will put
ये
here.
ऐसे स्ट्रिंग हो गया, इंटीजर हो गया, और वो जो पॉइंट में होता है 10.567 ऐसा कुछ, उसको क्या बोलते हैं? बुलियन की
That's
क्या?
called as float.
डबल बोलते हैं ना उसको, डबल?
Yeah, double.
डबल और
So
बुलियन बोलते हैं ट्रू फॉल्स को ना?
yeah, either double or else float.
ओके,
Let's see if it takes 10.5 and double. Okay.
डबल, हाँ, ओके,
So Boolean is your true false.
ट्रू फॉल्स, हाँ,
Okay.
ओके.
So I will just give you a very example. These two. Okay. So these two are not the same.
तो फर्स्ट वन तो स्ट्रिंग हो जाएगा, डबल कोट में है,
Yes.
और सेकंड वाला तो ये डॉलर ट्रू है, तो ये हो जाएगा बुलियन, जहाँ तक
Boolean.
मुझे पता है।
Yes. Okay.
हाँ,
So this is how you define Boolean in PowerShell. And
हम्म,
let's get another. I'll clear screen again. Let me give you get process. I will try to select only one process. Select hyphen first. Then I want one. Let me see the output. Output is this.
हम्म,
Let's say $a dot get type. Okay, we get a process. Let's say $b equals to $a dot id. Okay, I see $b. I should get the output as 4192. Okay. At the
हम्म,
same time, let me try to see get type for $b. Right. So this dollar we have not defined anyways. Let's say dollar c equals to 1, I say, and I say dollar c dot get type, right? For being it to be integer for dollar c, we have defined dollar c as an integer, dollar c equal to 1, right?
Mhm.
And for dollar b get type also we get integer 32, but we did not define dollar b. What we did is we took dollar b from dollar a, and dollar a is something which we took from get process, right? So with this is
Mhm.
a combination of a lot of things. If I say dollar d equals to dollar a dot process name, we will get the process name as admin service, that will be a string, and that's how
String.
we will get its data type as string. So this is a combination of data types.
Combination of the data type.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all of that is stored as a particular class. In this case, it is a process class. If it is a service, it is a service controller class. So you can always check using your get type to see what kind of class it is. But in translation terms of PowerShell, it is always stored as an object, something like this. Okay.
Mhm. Okay.
And objects always have two things, not two things, do not have two things, but are related to two things. One is property and method. Property is an attribute of the object, example something dot something, which we just saw here. This one, that's a pure example of property, right? So we tried to fetch the property of this particular process, we tried to fetch the id of this process, and we got the output as 4192. Okay.
Mhm.
And
Ye- Okay, Samaj.
yeah, and if I want to stop this particular process, I can just put something like, if I am able to, let's say, stop it using dot stop, or it will, there will always be a method specified for how to stop a process, right? So I can always use that and do that. So let's see which process is it. Admin service, right? So I'm not going to stop it. Let's stop a process. We have Notepad++, which is not doing anything for now. So what I will do is I will go to here. I will see my Notepad. Okay, its ID is 7536, right? I'll go here and I will say CLS dollar process equals to get process hyphen id, and then what's my id? 7536, 7536. Okay, let's see what is my process. My process is Notepad++, right? Let me
Mhm.
see how to stop. So process and then get member, and where is my method to stop? Let's see how to stop it. Method. There is a method called as close. There is a method called as kill. Okay.
Mhm.
And so let's
So
try close first.
and both close. Both are different.
What?
Kill and close.
Uh, Kill is basically you killing the process, something like this. Right click and in task or in task tree.
Then it will close the open notepad as well, right?
It will close abruptly. Close is
And
bas close is basically when you close it from here, and that will close the process. So, but when you kill the process, the process is killed first, and whatever application is dependent on that, that is killed later on. So
Mhm.
let's try to do that. CLS and process. Let's see whatever our process is. Notepad++ with ID 7536. We will try first our close dot process dot close. Okay, and let's see, and it does not do anything, right? So next is we will try kill. Let's see if it is able to kill. No process is associated with this ID dollar process, and there is no more process. Okay, so something we did wrong, because now our dollar process itself does not has anything. So get
Mhm.
process equals to get process hyphen id 7536. Let's do get notepad. Yes, we do. Let's try to kill it. And okay, so this time it has killed it. We are able to see that okay, there is no 7536, there is no notepad plus plus process. We are able to see that notepad plus plus is, the task itself is closed. Okay, so let's hit close and kill. Second event close and kill method. Okay, so this is all I will do. I will get back to whatever we have written in recheck tomorrow.
कल
And
करेंगे आप?
yes, so till here we will do today, and from tomorrow we will start with pipelines. Okay,
ओके,
so we'll connect tomorrow again.
ओके, ओके, थैंक
Okay, thank you then. Thank you. Bye.
यू।